Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help mental health professionals grow their dream practices and live a life they love. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building tips. We invite you to take advantage of our private practice paperwork and our signature marketing e-course. And we have a gift for you. This is the exact methodology we use to create our six-figure private pay practices and have helped many other therapists do the same. Go to privatepracticestartup.com and on the homepage, click the button to download a free copy of your dream private practice playbook. Now on to today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We hope everyone's doing fantastic today. And we definitely hope that this podcast inspires you. We get a lot of questions on how do I get off insurance panels? A lot of our coachees ask that. So a lot of our coachees come into coaching either on insurance panels, wanting to get off, or they're in a place that they're starting their private practice or really want to grow. But this is definitely a topic of conversation. And we have a great mix of guests today. We have two guests who have successfully got off all insurance panels. And then we have one guest who actually coaches therapists about insurance and billing, but has also successfully helped other therapists get off panels. So she has a wealth of knowledge since she's been in the insurance realm and knows the ins and outs. So, they're going to share their expertise and what they've learned with you to really inspire you in this 2023 if it is your goal to get off of insurance panels. So let me introduce our guest to you. So our first guest is first timer on our podcast, and I'm very excited for her. She's a friend, a colleague. I've known Tammy Berman for, I think maybe 15 years. We actually used to work together. So we're excited to have her. Tammy's a licensed mental health counselor, accredited collaborative facilitator, Supreme Court certified family mediator, and specializes in helping people through the divorce process. She also does dialectical behavioral therapy and is working with the teen population as well. She's built a successful six-figure and growing private practice, and is the current president of the Collaborative Family Law Professionals of South Florida. So that's Tammy. We also have with us today Kym Tolson, LCSW, the traveling therapist and insurance billing expert. Kym helps insurance-based therapists learn how to bill insurance correctly and accurately so that they can feel empowered in their business and so they don't have to pay billers a fortune. In addition, Kym is a full-time traveling therapist, traveling the world and helping other therapists along the way. When we were asking her about that, she was like, #digital nomad, AKA she travels and stays in Airbnbs, and she's hanging out here in Florida for the winter, and then she's going to go back west. And so I don't know, maybe we'll just have to do a podcast on that. That sounds very interesting. And then our final guest, but not first timer, is Tara Arhakos. Tara started her private practice full-time in 2013 after getting some motherly advice that it was time to sink or swim. Since then, she's transitioned from insurance panels to out of network and continues helping women discover and redefine themselves through the lifespan. And recently, Tara's been expanding her out-of-the-box style through yoga and breathwork. She's been developing workshops and workbooks to add more fun and flavor to the world of self-care and self-discovery. And Tara actually did our marketing e-course and coaching. Tammy's done some coaching with us too. So we're excited to hear about your progress, your success, and all of your tips. Welcome, ladies.
Woohoo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are glad you're here too. So I don't know, I guess one of the first questions, and maybe Kym will start with you, is like when people are like, I want to get off insurance panels, you have a question back to them. What is that?
Yeah, well, I'll start with why. What's your reasoning behind it? Because a lot of people will say, I can't get these claims paid, or they're not paying me enough money. So I'll start there, because if you have a lot of clients on a panel already, you might want to try to figure out how to stay on. So a lot of clinicians don't know that you can actually ask for a raise every year with the insurance companies. So that's my big thing first. I want to analyze that. And then I want to look at their systems to see, why aren't these claims getting paid? Like, what's wrong? Are you set up incorrectly with the credentialing department? Like, let's try to fix those two things and see if you still want to stay on the panel or not. And then if they don't, I help them with the other part of the process.
Awesome.
And before we dive into the steps of how to do that, let's take a quick break for our sponsor. As a therapist, you're probably too preoccupied with your caseload to want to think about bookkeeping and taxes. Herd is a full-service accounting software platform built specifically for therapists that helps you track and improve your practice's financial health. Regardless of whether you're a seasoned clinician or you're in the first year of your practice, Herd will help you identify areas for growth and streamline best financial practices for your business. When you sign up with Herd, you'll work directly with financial specialists to track your income and expenses, file taxes online, and grow your business. You'll also receive financial insights such as profit and loss statements and personalized monthly reports. Say goodbye to poring over spreadsheets and guessing your tax deductions or quarterly payments. Focus on your clients, and Herd will take care of the rest. Plans begin at $199 per month for solo practices and $299 per month for group practices. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation at joinherd.com. That's joinherd.com. Okay. Kym, I like that you started with, okay, if you're already on insurance panels, but you're wanting to get off, what's the reason why? Let's explore that. See if there's some relatively quick and easy solutions that could be stepping stones towards their goal of transitioning off insurance. And if they are ready to transition off, share with us some of the tips and the process for how you would suggest going about that.
Well, you would start with looking at your contract to see, how much notice do I have to give the insurance company before I start this process? Because some of them want you to give up to 120 days to get off the contract. So you need to figure that out, because then you have to make a plan with your clients how you're going to transition them off insurance. If you're going to try to make them self-pays or, find other therapists for them. So that's the next starting point if you do decide you want to get off this panel.
Nice. And I'm actually just curious to kind of take a step back for Tammy and Tara. What made you want to get off insurance panels? And then a two-part question, because I clearly never like to ask just one, is what are some of the fears, worries, and concerns you had to overcome to do that?
Go
ahead, Tara. Oh, Tammy, go ahead. Go ahead, Tammy.
So in 2017, for me, insurance panels from like 2015, 16, 17 had started cutting their fees. And I'd been in practice for some time, and all my colleagues that were fee for service, they were charging so much more. So it started to become a blow to my ego that, here I am working so hard, investing a lot of time in training, and I'm starting to make less and less in comparison to my peers. And then one particular insurance company, they were all starting to cut down. But one particular insurance company gave me basically an ultimatum. They were cutting their contract by $30 per hour. Let's just say that. And I was like, that was for me the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was like, that's it, I'm out. And I had tried over the years to do attrition, like titrate down and try to have some blocks of time for fees for service, some for insurance. It just never worked for me. I could never preserve that spot for the fee for service client. And I never had the language and the practice of how to really speak and sell a fee for service. So it just never worked. And so by the end of 2017, I knew that for me, I had to just get it all out of my way and cut them all out. So that was my why. I can't remember what your second question was.
It was about the fears, worries, and concerns as you were going through the process of letting go. It
was terrifying because I had a well-oiled machine. I knew what to expect in terms of what my yearly income was, what my monthly income was. I was, a contributor in my family in terms of paying the bills. And so you're moving into a complete unknown. So that was terrifying. I could just say to you, the experience for me was like preparing to jump off a cliff to see if I would fly. And it was that was the experience from an emotional standpoint. That's what I was feeling. Once I made the commitment, I did a whole bunch of stuff to prepare myself for that jump. So
I love it. So the terrifying part was you're at the cliff with no parachute, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to jump this cliff, but let me prepare to make sure I land.
I need to learn how to get the parachute and what the techniques are of a good landing, and maybe I'll fly, Awesome. There was a lot of investment in prepping for that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tara, what about you? What was your why, and what were the fears, worries, or concerns?
So I had gotten to the point that I was seeing 28 to 32 people a week. Mm-hmm. And I was making less than what I made from the job that I left. And I was definitely putting in a lot more hours because we know paperwork and insurance and all that stuff. So that part. And then I had a few people that were out of network. And so what I found was I started to feel almost resentful in a way for the ones that were in network, because I was like, I'm doing the same work and getting paid significantly less for the bulk of my clients. So at that point I was like, okay, like I think I need to start trying to get out of network. I also met another therapist. I happened to pick her up at the gym. And she came up to me. She's like, oh my God, you're amazing. And we started chatting and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm a therapist. She's like, so am I. And she's actually somebody I've kept in touch with. She's been in practice now for over 30 years and was never on an insurance panel. So I literally had lunch with her and I was like, teach me your way. I was like, because this is ridiculous. So that was really the beginning of me saying, okay, I'm going to like figure out how to transition out of this. And kind of like, you know, Tammy was saying, like, I needed to create it with like a safety net in a way that I felt safe. So I like slowly rolled out. Now, granted, it probably took me like a year to get off most. I stayed on one for a long time because I still had that like little bit of fear in there. But I slowly rolled it out of coming off of each panel that I was on. I was terrified, more so because of everything that happened at the same exact time. So I started the process in 2015. And in 2016, it was, I'll never forget this. It was like a random day in February. I was going to go sign a lease on a new office. I was getting a bigger office with my buddy that I shared space with. So our rent was jumping up, like it was doubling. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. It's not a big deal. Now, at the same time, I still lived at home. I was very fortunate in that sense. I had turned to my mom and I was like, hey, there's this open house down the shore. Do you want to go check this out with me? And she's like, okay. We walked into the condo that I'm sitting in at the moment and I fell in love with it. So I came off insurance panels with a brand new office and I bought a house. And I was like, oh God, this has to work. And all I kept saying was, worst case scenario, you go back on the panels. Worst case scenario. And it's been 6 years. So.
Awesome. That's interesting that you do that, Tara, because that's what I always do is like the worst case scenario. And I remember when I like went into private practice and I got, you know, my first office, my worst case scenario was, okay, if I have to pay rent for a year in this contract and never make any money, you know, can I foot the bill? Okay. Yes, I could do this. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Very good.
Yeah. And I also was crazy about the idea of, I made sure I had like 3 to 5 months of a buffer for my business expenses and all what I knew to be my personal expenses at that time. And I was like, okay, like at least then I'm like, all right, you're going to be all right.
You know, thank you for sharing that because, you know, I remember coming into private practice and I had been seeing like 8 to 10 clients like part-time. And then I decided to leave at the end of November, right into the holiday season. You know, then my income decreased. I'm paying Cobra and I probably had savings because I've always been a saver, but I didn't like create this plan about saving for marketing, saving for all these things. So I like that you let people know, like one of the tips is to really make sure you have that buffer and savings for the quote unquote worst case scenario for sure. Let's take a quick moment for our sponsor.
Are you tired of running to the lobby to see if your next appointment has arrived? Would you like a more discreet, stress-free way for your clients to check in? Take a deep breath. The Receptionist for iPad empowers your practice to create a Zen-like check-in experience. This episode is sponsored by the Receptionist for iPad. It's the highest rated digital check-in software for therapy offices and behavioral health clinics used by thousands of private practitioners across the country, including many who are just getting started. The Receptionist for iPad is a simple, inexpensive way to allow your clients to discreetly check in, to notify providers of a client's arrival, and to ensure your front lobby area is stress-free. The software sends an immediate notification to the therapist when a client checks in and can even ask if any client information has changed since their last visit. Start your 14-day free trial of the Receptionist for iPad by going to thereceptionist.com/PPS, as in private practice startup. And when you do, you'll also get your first month for free when you sign up. That's thereceptionist.com/PPS.
As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using Therapy Notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribing incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. Look, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR available today with 4.9 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot and Google. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS as in private practice startup and receive a special 2-month trial, absolutely free. And hey, if you're coming from another EHR, no worries. Therapy Notes will import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost to you so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS for your 2-month free trial.
I love hearing your stories about your experiences, Tara and Tammy. And Tara, you had mentioned that you kind of like slowly transitioned off. So tell us a little bit about your process of how you strategically transitioned off of the panels and what recommendations you have from your own experience.
Tammy might giggle at me on this one. So I created an entire spreadsheet for myself of the panels that I was on, and I called each provider relations, and I was like, okay, so how do I come off your panel? How many, what's the time frame, right? Because like Tammy was saying, like there's in the contract you can terminate, but you have a certain amount of time, right? And so like one insurance company was really interesting. I could terminate with them, but like, so I think it was like 90 days, and then they would keep the client on with me for a year, but pay my out of network rate.
Wow.
So that I could transition them out. It was beautiful. Amazing. And it helped much with like, helping my clients find somebody if they needed somebody. Wow. And in truth, what happened was that insurance company in particular had a lot of my people had really good out of network benefits. So a year later, they still wanted to work with me. So I was like, look, here's what your deductible is. Like, this is how I laid it out so simply for them to make the decision. I literally took my fee. I was like, this is what your co-insurance would be after the deductibles met. So like, I tried to make it as not intimidating, right? Like as possible for them and me with doing that. And then, so like I did that and I looked, and the ones that I knew that were like going to be spread out for a while like that, I was like, oh, okay. And then I just kind of took it step by step. I started with the lowest paying one because it happened to be the lowest paying. It was also the one that I had like 2 people. And I was like, get this out. Like, that's easy. That's not scary. I mean, I think one actually, I never got one client off of it. So that one, I was like, okay. I was like, that was easy. So, but then like, and the company that did that year, they were the bulk of my business at that point. So once I learned all that, I was like, okay, like that's the last one to go because I can build my clientele that's private pay, but still have these guys here as like a safety.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Tammy? Did you cut everybody cold turkey or did you kind of titrate down?
In terms of the contracts, I like cut them all out. I mean, I wrote in a matter of a week, termination letters for every single contract and submitted it and followed their proper protocol. And in the midst of that, I prepared my clients for the fact that I was terminating. My plan was to do it. The jump off the cliff was
the jump date.
The jump date was January 1. So I was terminating my contracts effective December 31 of 2017. And so I submitted all that to every contract that I was credentialed with. In the midst of that preparation, like once I made that decision, I started like really accelerating my preparation for what that was going to look like, what I needed to do. I signed up for certain marketing programs and like, I think, I don't know if naming names is okay, but I went after certain people in the Facebook world that I had learned about that were helping. Like you guys were one for sure, a great resource for how to do fee for service. And there were others that I started to do marketing programs with to learn how to transition my business. And then I also started prepping my clients, of course. Like, I had a lot of relationships with clients. For my caseload that I had, I planned for them to be at a lower fee price point than what I was hoping to enter the market with. And so I let them know, like, for the first year of my transition, I will offer you guys a lower fee than what I would offer anybody else, just because I know that for them, they're accustomed to a copay and there was a relationship there and I didn't want to abandon them. I wanted to give them some opportunity. So I let them all know that that was the option I was providing. And a few of them stuck with me because they wanted to stick and they had the option to go, and many left. And then the other thing that I learned through like the investment of education of how to do this jump was to hone in on specialties and like really call yourself out. And the guidance I had was pick one. And that was really hard for me because I was passionate about a few. And I was like, I'm just going to do me and I can't pick one. So I honed in on the few that I have, and they remain the few, which is the collaborative divorce, really helping people through the divorce process, but it's because of the collaborative. The teens, I love working with teens, and then I'm highly trained in DBT. So those were my things. And then the other thing I did was that I learned in terms of prepping for a revenue stream that was fee for service on the other side of that year, 2018, I started rolling it out in 2017, which was the groups that I do. I learned about groups being a great form of marketing, and that was a fee for service option. So I started really like marketing for that, like creating the structure of that and just going with it. And so I used some like online specialists that support, the development of how do you do groups. You guys know, what I'm talking about, but I used her as a resource as well for like just supporting me and how do I do groups. And so those are the different things I did for myself in the transition and the jump. And personally prepping with my husband that, there may be this dip and like, how do we accommodate and budget for that? So, like worst case scenario thinking and how do we plan for that? And I was giving myself about a 3-month leeway of expecting a dip. And I did. In the first month, I had a bit of a dip from where I was in terms of the income of 2017 to 18. But then, it did what I expected. I was just scared. So, but that was good.
Kym, I really like how you highlight the different planning, right? So there's the insurance planning, the planning with your clients, right? The planning with, okay, well, what am I going to do now? How am I marketing differently? And then the planning with your family. And that's really important. So I'm glad that you highlighted that stuff. Kym, when therapists are really afraid of losing clients, what do you say to them?
Well, just kind of like what she said too, you can individualize this stuff as you're coming up the panel. So, you could say, this is my self-pay rate. You can also say, if you want to, I have a sliding scale program that I can do with you, but I would say definitely document that with your clients. Try to keep it a consistent program that you're going to do with the clients and go from there and see if they want to do the sliding scale.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And Tara and Tammy, how many clients did you actually lose that were kind of like, nope, I have to be insurance only?
My caseload was maybe like 80 plus, maybe 80 to 100 of a caseload, in the sense that I was seeing, similar to Tara, what she reported, I was between 25 to 35 a week. And some of those were every week, but some of those had already titrated to every other week, and some were check-ins. So that's why my caseload was as high as it is there was just people kind of dragging along. So for me, who stayed with me was very few, probably 15, 20, maybe, that whole caseload.
And was that kind of the clients you were seeing consistently at that time?
I would say so. And I have to tell you that over the years, people that I have seen through insurance still have come back to me, actually, over the years. Like, that's created it's a family, a network of people, the way I see it. I left an impression, and I'm the type of person that I'm not here to take all the business. So I've always offered in support of my clients, just I'm here to help, and call me if you need. And if I'm not the right person, I'll help find you somebody. And I consistently do that across the board. If it's not me, you have a specific need, it's a specialty out of my scope, or the fee is out of your scope, I'm going to give you as many people as I can. I'm not going to be like, yeah, sorry, I can't help you. I'll be like, here's what I've found in Facebook world and my community world. And, yeah.
Very cool. Tara, what about you? About losing clients?
So it ended up not being like nearly as many as I thought it was going to be. I want to say I was probably around 72 people at that time. And I think I lost maybe 8. And I think it was more so like the ones that I knew flat out, like they weren't as committed to the work anyways to begin with. So, and I did a little bit like Tammy was saying about working with people like on that transition. So some of my people that I knew had no out-of-network benefits, like I offered them like, I'll see you at your in-network rate as we try to find you somebody that's like a good fit for you that's in network. And I'm totally on board with you on like how you're like, I may not be your person, whether it's I don't have like the skills that you need, or, you need somebody in network. Like I remember I worked with this woman, she like loved working with me. She saw me like 2 or 3 times, but then she brought up that it was just too much for her. And I was like, say something. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, all right, let's do a little research. Like now I know you. So here's some people I know that are in network that are probably perfect. Like, go try them out and see. But like, this is meant to be something as a release for you. And if it's causing you stress financially, doing the opposite of what we want. So,
yeah. Gotcha.
And
go ahead, Kym.
I was going to say that out-of-network option is really good. A lot of clinicians don't even realize that. When, like you were saying, when you get off the contract, you can start giving a super bill to your clients, and they may be able to get reimbursed for services. You can even educate your clients around, how do I call and check my out-of-network benefits? What do these benefits mean? That can be another way to help retain your clients.
Absolutely. That's a big thing that insurance teaches you so much about billing. It's a great skill set. We have an additional one that people are in fee for service really don't have a clue how to help their client. And that's another thing that I also did as well. Good point, is educate my clients on how to access out-of-network benefits, what questions to ask, just in case as an offer. And that's today still a thing I use as a way to deal with objections regarding the cost of service, is that there may be, we offer super bills, there may be a way you can, if you want to do that. Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Kate, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, for Tammy and Tara, you both mentioned you were seeing anywhere between 28, 30, 35 clients a week, and that is not sustainable long-term. I mean, that is key for burnout. And not to mention all of the billing and paperwork and everything else for managing a business on top of that. So you both went from really working a ton of hours. And I'm just curious, as you transitioned into your full fee private pay practices, how has that changed your life from the experience of what it was before to what it looks like now?
It's actually, so when the pandemic hit, there was a point where all of a sudden I saw 28 people in a week, and I was like, oh, how did I used to do this? I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then it was like 24. And then I was seeing like 20 to 22 during the pandemic. And I was like, I'm not made for this anymore. I was like, okay. So I had to tone it down. My sweet spot is 18, but 15's cool. And it's beautiful. Like, I can't, like, and it's funny because people hear that and they're like, oh, you only work 15 or 18 hours a week. And I'm like, no, like you people have no idea what else we do. Like, but like drastic change, I think about that and I'm like, oh my God, like I have a friend like in private practice and he's a beast. He sees so many people and I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, that's exhausting.
And me, for sure. Tammy, what about you?
I am somewhat of a workaholic and it's uncomfortable to not be working through the day. Of course, I had that dip. And one of the things I learned from the marketing videos was about the switch of investment in time in marketing and that's work. So that was really great training and guidance for me because I then started to schedule in all this time through the week that I wasn't seeing clients for marketing effort and for business management. And so that helped me spinning my wheels and continue to invest in the development of my business in a fee for service way. So I did end up growing to a place of like 15 to 20 clients was comfortable for me because of the higher rate. I was already like surpassing what my ceiling was with full-time insurance at 35 clients. But then I really, for me, you guys know me as a really collaborative professional. And I really honed in and like dove into that world. I'm very invested in the grassroots efforts and advocacy of people just knowing about collaborative. So if you look at my billable hours through the week, at this point, it's 2022 since 2018. I'm anywhere from like 20 to 30 because I also now kind of bill like an attorney a little bit for collaborative cases. We don't have direct client hours, but we bill for professional phone calls, for emailing, for different aspects of the collaborative case. But I say I'm around, let's say, anywhere from 18 to 30. Some weeks are crazy of client driven services. And then the other stuff is, marketing and committees and board meetings and blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
All that other stuff.
This has been really helpful. And I'm just wondering if there's one quick tip that we didn't cover that you want to make sure that folks know. Kym, anything that's coming to top of mind for you?
Let me think. I can't think of anything right now. Come back to me and I'll see what I've got to say. Yeah.
Tara, any quick tips that we haven't covered?
I mean, I think the biggest part, at least for me and anybody, like I have friends all the time in private practice that ask like, how do I get off the panels and stuff? And I'm always like, you have to, as scary as it is, don't be afraid to lose your clients because they're making space for the ones that will better fit your practice.
Beautiful.
And you're probably not going to lose nearly as many as you think you're going to lose anyways, because you've already got a rapport with them. We're in a service that is really intimate, I mean, like Tammy was saying, I have people that I saw on insurance that they'll call and they're like, oh my God, like I looked around, I couldn't find anybody. They're like, I tried to stay in network. You know what? I don't care. I'm just coming back. They're like, what's your fee now? I'm like, okay. I'm glad to have you. And so, and there's a big difference. You'll see it between people that, pay a copay and really invest in themselves. They do a lot of work. I actually, sorry to hijack this, but I actually have converted some of my clients because they don't use insurance. They do 90-minute sessions with me. And the amount of work that the women I have that do the 90 minutes with me, it's phenomenal. And it's exciting. It rejuvenates me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working with people that are so vested and have made leaps and bounds. So awesome. Getting free off the panel gives you so many different opportunities to do things just, I don't know, not as archaic as we were taught in grad school, maybe.
Or taught by insurance too.
Yep.
Tammy, what about you?
Another one that we didn't touch on, and I know, but as a way to summarize a tip, is the money mindset issue that you then become exposed to because you're no longer dictated by the insurance company what your fee is going to be set at. So now it's all up to you to talk about your fee, and there's all this about your self-worth. And there was this amazing. So a couple things around the money mindset, use your community to support you to kind of process your value, the client investment. There's a money mindset on both sides. There's a money mindset of the client paying the money and in their investment in the work. And there's a money mindset of you and your self-worth and the quality of work you're giving. But the greatest tip I learned to help me with the process of raising my fees and that money mindset around that was from a particular mastermind, like business coaching person. And she talked about selling a 10-hour package. And so when you want to raise your fee, but you're still struggling with that money mindset, you can offer a 10-hour package at the higher rate. And it actually helps to circumvent the exposure you have from the concept of a sliding fee scale. If you don't use objective criteria for a sliding fee scale, there's an exposure for discrimination suit. And so she talked about this 10-hour package you can offer across the board as a discount to anybody. And that's the objective criteria. You don't care who it is. You don't have to take their W-2 or anything like that. And so you offer your 10-hour package at the rate that you were for 10 hours. So if my rate was $150, so I can offer you a discount at $1,500 for the 10 hours. And then there's like some terms around that to help protect you, but it helps you to make that jump. And that was to this day, I use that and support that for the clinicians in my practice and like helping them with that development. It was great. It was a great piece of advice.
Great tip. Love that. And also just highlighting the discrimination piece is if you're doing sliding scale and you don't, like you said, have any criteria on how you do that and changing it for different clients, that could really leave you open to risk. Kym, coming back to you.
Just that, a hybrid practice is okay. It's okay to just be a one insurance panel if it pays well and it suits your practice. And with that, you can always take it off your directories and your website that you even accept insurance, but you can still be on the panel. So you don't necessarily have to advertise it if you are kind of trying to move away from that model, but maybe you have one good payer and a lot of clients on that panel still.
Awesome. Ladies, this has been really great and really expanding our thoughts and ideas about this topic. And I know that you've offered a lot of valuable information. Tammy, I really appreciate you tapping into the mindset stuff, the marketing stuff, and how important that is. Because there's also, Kate and I talk about marketing mindset, right? And overcoming the feeling sleazy or salesy, like that shows up as well. It's interesting in our e-course, we talk about business, money, and marketing mindset. That's the very first module that we talk about because we have to shift the mindset around that. I know that Kym is generously offered her course, DIY Mental Health Billing for Private Practice, using code Private Practice Startup to get 15% off. We'll put that on our show notes page. Also, you ladies highlighted some things that I think it's important for us to share too. We do, if you know us already, we are the kind of gurus of attorney-approved private practice paperwork. We do have an out-of-network billing super bill. We'll include that in the show notes. We do have our client converting call script. So a lot of folks, I know, Tammy, you hit on this. It's like, I don't know how to sell myself as a full fee clinician. Well, the call script has a video and it actually walks you through that. So we will put that on our show notes page, which with a huge discount code, and the coupon code is more clients for $59. It's usually $197. And of course, if you're in a place that you are wanting to move from insurance panels, or you're starting your practice or want to grow your practice and really haven't understood or really you feel like you have a firm foundation in marketing, we invite you to check out our marketing course and coaching program. This is what we do. This is what we love to do. Tara's been in it. Tammy's on coaching with us. So we feel very inspired to help clinicians not only work with the clients they love, but really live their dream life. And I think you've heard it from these ladies today on how you can do that. And like Kym said, wherever you are, it's really perfect. If insurance is working for you, that's okay. If you want to do a hybrid, fantastic. Or if you're ready to, get to the edge of that cliff, like Tammy said, with a January 1st date, a jump. Wherever you are, it's perfect. So I just wanted to thank you all for joining us today. And as always, this is this podcast, I'm sure, is very beneficial. So, do your colleagues and friends a favor, share it with them so that they can have these tips if this is their goal for this year or any of the coming years. Kate?
Yeah, thank you, ladies, for being here today. It was such a helpful podcast, and I know Startup Nation is finding it really, really useful. So, Startup Nation, we always love hearing your feedback. If you loved this episode, let us know. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the show. You can do that on our show notes page. And of course, like Katie was saying, share it with your friends and fellow colleagues. That's how we are able to help more clinicians across the globe to really have practices that they love, live lives that they love, and really make a greater impact in the world. So we will look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. In the meantime, stay inspired.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.